Hi everyone, this is my presentation. My subject about flood design in KiwiKuya is design emergency shelter equipment for flood. Let's start with the background introduction. KiwiKuya is a Aboriginal community which is the most remote indigenous community. It belongs to the Western Australia, but because the long distance, KiwiKuya have more community with Alice Spring. Because of the unusual heavy rainfall in 2002 in the KiwiKuya between March 3 and 5, KiwiKuya faced an unusual flood in this period. This flood influenced all of the community, and the whole community was immersed in water. At the same time, it was only cooperation of the army that all the residents was transferred. Here is project introduction. In assessment 2, I analyzed and shot a lot of news about the flood report and was the memories of some victims on social medias. On this basis, I summed up some problems faced by the residents when the flood occurred. Then I analyzed the 18 productions about flood, and finally I chose the theme of flood underwater explored to keep in study. In my opinion, the exploration and design of the underwater conditions can be divided in two parts. The large underwater waste, which will pose stress to recycle ship, and the mobile garbage that will pose stress to recycle person in shared water. In this design, I will focus on solve the first problem because I think this is closer to the really situation in KiwiKuya. Due to this remote location, the research spots are more likely to be inflatable recycle ships, which are more likely to be endangered by larger underwater garbage. Here is 3 points I think should be considered in this design. The first is manufacturing cost. Because I will use it in a lot of numbers, so I think the cost should be cheaper. And the short, because it is transported by airplane, so it should be short in the small piece. The last one is environmental protection. This area is a natural park, so I think recycling and use environment-friendly material is more important in other area. Here is an explaining about how to use its explorations. But first, it will be used on the airport. Then use airport to throw them into the flood. It will moved by the water power like a ship. Then when it meets a huge underwater garbage, it will stop to only the other people. Here is a dangerous place. At first, I have designed a lot of different shapes to analyze which shapes is the better one in these situations. Because I think when it dropped from the airplane, it will turning in the air. So it could hardly to think it is useful or unuseful in the flood. Here I have designed a test to analyze which shapes is the better shapes. I have made 4 different fair models with 4 different shapes, and they have same size. And I have added to some material piece on one side to imitate the weight of alcohol. According to the test, I think this shapes is the most successful shapes. And then I want to add some new function about this design because I think the majority of the security people was not from the locations people. So I think they could lose them way in the flood. I want my design have some function to help them find the right road. According to the characteristic of water flowing to a lower place, the direction of water flowing will definitely move to the depths of the water. According to this structure, I hope to design a detector with different left and right area. When the detector records different force in the water, that will definitely in the direction of the applied force. I hope to design a detector based on the virtue. In the laboratory, I see use a hair dryer to imit the flow of the water. Test which shapes is the most sensitive. According to this test, I find the no two shapes is the most sensitive shapes, and I will use these shapes to continue design. In this part, I have designed a lot of different logos to tell the users which is the right directions they should go, and then I find some volunteers to tell me which is the better logo. In this step, I test the user feedback on the information received. The main purpose of this test is to imitate whether the user ability to read the vertical single and the horizontal single when they on the risk board is different. I wrote numbers on the cardboard. Some were placed sideways and some were upright. However, there are no huge difference in this different information transmissions method. Here is my final design sketch. I will use the laser cut technology to make my model, and I found a website to make these models. There are a lot of wood materials on this website, and according to the introduction, I find the bamboo one is the better one because the wood one is too soft. Here is the 3D model making. Here is the final model displayed. Actually, I want to use the bamboo one to make this model, but I find the online shop was closed because the COVID-19, so I made it by myself. Here is some references I have used in this project, and this is all of my presentation. Thanks for your time.